competitions are an iPad because you have analytics in your app. But it is like really important, and I've been actually impressed by a few conversations I've had this morning where people are really interested in knowing, how to build apps like in the actual marketplace and kind of get valuable information. And if you're doing any kind of experiment, you have your hypothesis and a conclusion, but you need observation, you need to validate it, and that's kind of where analytics comes in. And it's a service. This is not, by the way, a sales pitch. You can use whatever service you want, but this is, things that you should be thinking about when you develop apps. So a little bit about Flurry first. We have a lot of customers. We have 66,000 customers that use Flurry services, 175,000 applications that are live. We see 520 million devices a month, and we track 35 billion sessions per month. What's important about that number, which is about 1.2 billion sessions a day, what's important is that's very expensive. It takes a lot of service to do it. It scales very well, but you don't have to worry about it. You don't pay for that. And that's one of the great things about using a lot of cloud services. Most services out there have a free tier. So you can go out and just focus on your app, let someone else take care of the scaling and this kind of racking servers, which we do a lot of at Flurry. Some of the people that use our service, all the way from small to big, Rovio, Zynga, including Draw Something, who I'm sure you all know, New York Times, Skype, all these guys use Flurry, and it's free for them as well, so there's no tier where you're gonna have to worry about paying for it, which is great knowing you can build an app and scale it and still, maintain a small overhead. We also, so analytics for, like I said, we have a network for advertising where we make money. I'm not going to talk about that today, but if you want to learn about money in the cloud, we can talk about our advertising network, which we have about 6,000 developers that use. All right. So an overview of what I'm going to talk about today. First are integration concerns. And like I said, as Director of Partner Integration at Flurry, this is what I care about, and it's things that you all should care about, and it's things that we've addressed because our partners care about them. Best practices and getting insight from your app, and then optimizing your user engagement. All right, so some of the things that we've optimized around, and these are things that are very important when you're building your app. SDK size. There are a lot of third-party networks out there that actually have very large SDKs, from 3 meg to 7 meg SDKs. And so it was important for us to make sure that we optimize the size of it, because I know they just recently increased on iOS to 50 meg, but it used to be 20. And a lot of people came to us and said, look, we're teetering around 19 megs, and we can't afford like a big SDK. So we actually modularized our SDK. So we used to have one that had analytics as well as advertising. You can get exactly what you need now, just the analytics or just the advertising product, and it's actually a very small SDK. But the important part is, think about that when you're including apps, because a lot of people, to do cloud computing, you're gonna end up using a lot of different apps because people are specialists in different aspects. And so if you end up putting in about 5 or 6 different SDKs in your app, that's gonna increase the size, which matters for people downloading it. Efficient use of resources was very important to us. We don't wanna slow an app down. In any of the SDKs you use, you have to, how do they interact? How will they affect your user experience? Everything we do is on a background thread. We don't do a lot within the application. We send data at the end. We do something very quickly at the beginning. But it's very important to, when you integrate an app, you might see the mark and it might sound great. Put it in and see how it affects the gameplay. Do some profiling. Reliability. How reliable is it? Check before you integrate something. See what other people are saying about it. Is it going to crash your app? Is it going to, slow it down? Outside of just being in your app, during peak times, is just going to their server, is that latency causing you, headaches? Is it slowing down your app and affecting user play? So you have to think about that. And lastly, ease of integration. The whole goal of cloud computing is for you to be able to focus on what you do best, on building your app. And so, analytics, we didn't want that to be something that took you, days to integrate. So literally in 5 minutes, you can get a lot of information out of Flurry, and I'll actually tell you that next. So here's a 5-minute basic integration. Figure we throw some code because of the crowd we have. So with iOS, like literally you go to dev.flurry.com, you download, create an account, download our SDK, and literally in